Deep in the American Midwest, nestled between a field of corn and a sea of trees, is a quiet, familiar town, the kind where every breeze sings with children's laughter. It's a town like 1,000 other towns, except for once a year on Halloween, the devil comes out to play. This devil's name is Michael Myers. To some, he's flesh and blood. To others, he's the boogeyman, a myth told to keep children from straying too far after dark. The truth, unfortunately, lies somewhere between. He is the cold, unfeeling absence of reason, with the vacant stare of a hollowed-out pumpkin. And every Halloween night, when the wind shifts slightly and the sounds of leaves tumbling one over the other grows louder in your ear, he returns. Not for recognition, not for revenge, but for another chance at a festive and lively night of tricks and treats. What you're about to see and hear was classified long ago, collected in secret, and preserved for posterity in the Slasher Collective. Welcome back to the Haddonfield Registry. I'm your host, Mr. October, aka Slasher with an X. Today we'll be debuting a new long-form series known as the Slasher Collective, wherein we examine horror's most infamous slasher villains, covering their origins, their designs, and their abilities, and how deadly they are. For our first episode, we'll be examining the king of the slashers himself, Michael Audrey Myers. While it's true that there are several different iterations of Michael, from the Cult of Thorn Michael to the remake Michael, the original 1978 film is, to put it bluntly, in a league of its own. Every follow-up, no matter how close it gets to the original, is not truly the same Michael we saw in 1978. Part of the film's charm, part of its terror, is Carpenter's decision to keep Michael's entire personality unknown, save for what we can interpret ourselves from his actions. Viewers project their own fears onto him. As such, every new writer coming in invents an entirely new personality behind the mask, whether conscious of it or not. So it only seems fair to give the classic 1978 Michael Myers his own entry. Given that the film's budget was less than $500,000, Michael's design is fairly plain. He sports a pair of green coveralls stolen from an unlucky mechanic along the interstate. It's widely believed the coveralls used during filming were a pair of Sears tradewares in the color Tex green, which have been described as a neutral gray-green. You can actually see this most clearly during the daytime scenes with Michael, mainly when he's watching Tommy Doyle. Despite this, many fans still believe the coveralls to be gray or even navy due to the lighting used in certain scenes. It's likely that the Tex green, or gray-green, was picked for its ability to accurately reflect the desired color temp of the scene without needing to do a lot of color grading in post, since they didn't have as big of a budget for FX. The film's many different lighting setups were made possible by cinematographer Dean Cundy, of course, and is yet to be fully captured authentically on home media release. His boots are a pair of Vietnam jungle boots with a Vibram sole. But most important to this ensemble is Michael's mask. Out of universe, it's a Dawn Post Captain Kirk mask made from a life cast of William Shatner, with the skin painted a stark white, the hair misted black, and the eye holes cut open to remove some of the expression, leaving a pale, barely human face that tugs at your uncanny valley response. In universe, it's just an eerie mask. Famously, the Kirk mask was not the only contender for the Shape's face. A Spock mask and an Emmett Kelly mask were both considered as well. John Carpenter has said that part of the inspiration for the Shape as a character was when he took a trip to a mental institution during one of his college classes, where he was introduced to a young teenage boy with a blank, emotionless stare. That child terrified Carpenter, and the inhuman quality of that stare is perfectly encapsulated within Michael's mask. The mask itself was one of several he stole from Nichols Hardware on the morning of October 31st, 1978 in Haddonfield, Illinois. It's not known if they were all the same style or different kinds. While these next two bits of lore pertain to different iterations of the Shape, it is worth mentioning that in Halloween 4, we do see the Shape mask on sale at Vincent Drugs, meaning it's a mass-produced mask. Additionally, in the expanded universe of the Halloween H20/Resurrection timeline, It's revealed Michael has a stockpile of these shape masks to swap out when needed. Could this Michael have stockpiled the same kind of mask? Maybe. Beneath the clothes, though, Michael is a white male, roughly 5'11", with shaggy brown hair. His most distinguishing feature is his disfigured left eye, an injury sustained in combat. Born and raised in Haddonfield, Illinois, a fictional town in real-life Warren County, Michael's killing career began much earlier than his peers. At the age of 6, guided by an unseen force, Michael used his family's kitchen knife to brutally stab his older sister, Judith, to death. No reason was ever given, no justification. Per the child psychiatrist assigned to his case, Dr. Sam Loomis, 8 years were spent trying to get Michael to open up, but that day never came. Then it became Loomis's mission for the next 7 years to keep him locked up, at least until his 21st birthday, where he was to be tried as an adult for the murder of his sister. That day, too, would never come, for at some point during the night of October 30th, 1978, Michael would free himself and his caged companions, stealing the very transport wagon meant for his transfer in the process. He would waste no time hurrying back to his hometown, where he would desecrate his sister's resting place by stealing her headstone, break into the local hardware store to steal knives, rope, and Halloween masks, and finally slip back into his childhood home undetected, where he laid in wait for some silent alarm to call him into action. That call would come in the form of a young, studious, blonde babysitter named Laurie Strode. The pair would cross paths when Laurie, the daughter of a local real estate agent, drops off a key at the Myers house on her way to school, with Michael just inches away from her on the other side of the front door. Maybe it's because she looked like Judith, or maybe it's because of the song she sang that only the two of them could hear that day. We'll never know. But Michael would decide to follow Laurie then and there, appearing to her just a few hours later while she was in class. A man of many mysteries, Michael also spied on those around Laurie, namely Tommy Doyle, the child she babysits, and her friends Annie Brackett and Linda Vanderklok. The latter two girls would be the first to fall to his blade that Halloween night. Using the rope he'd stolen, Michael rigs up a local home with the corpses of Laurie's friends, then lures her over, hoping to ensnare her in his web. But despite coming close several times, Michael would not have his prize. Unknown to the Shape, his doctor had also wasted no time coming to Haddonfield to stop Michael at all costs, even employing the sheriff and his deputies as guard dogs against the boogeyman. Loomis would eventually find him strangling the life out of Laurie Strode, who had evaded the Reaper as long as she could. Steadying his aim, Loomis delivered 6 blazing shots into Michael's body, the force of which sent him reeling into the night. However, this type of weapon is only useful against a man, and as we established, Michael is something else. Not a minute after tanking 6 slugs to the chest, Michael would be back on his feet again, drifting between the corners of darkened homes beneath the white moonlight like the shadow of a tree branch. From here, the records get murky. Some reports say he left town, others say he never left at all. No one agrees on an exact body count, just the minimum 4 killed leading up to Loomis shooting him off the Wallace household balcony. Status: unknown. Michael moves through the night like a shadow given form. Don't let the heavy breathing fool you. Every single sound you hear from him is curated to heighten fear. He thrives on it, going out of his way to alarm his victims, even if doing so would make them more wary of their surroundings. For classification purposes, he's what we call a lurker. Like a cat, he silently observes and bides his time, moving with deft precision and blinding speed. Every move he makes is deliberate. His inhuman patience affords him the luxury of meticulously watching his prey, studying their every move and countering them at every step in a way that leaves his victims feeling as if they've encountered an actual ghost. It's unknown how he killed the mechanic, but we know how he killed the teenagers in Haddonfield. First was Annie. Michael had watched all 3 girls on their way home from school and followed them once more when they left for their babysitting gigs. Here, he gave considerable time and effort to watching Annie. At several points, Michael is not but 10 feet from her, watching her from just outside the home's kitchen. He even pulls down a potted plant to scare her before moving to a secondary location to watch how she reacts. Eventually, after overhearing Annie's plan to leave to pick up her boyfriend, Paul, Michael sneaked into the backseat of her car, where he would pop up and slice her throat. This is a great example of Michael's planning. He likes to set traps and puts himself in the path of his prey. With Bob, he lured the man over with the creak of a kitchen door, then burst out from a closet to pin him to a wall with the kitchen knife. With Linda, he took the time to create a secondary disguise to hide the fact that he wasn't Bob. Notice how he doesn't kill Linda until after she is no longer showing off her body, no longer in the moment of intimacy. That's when he strangles her to death. And for Lori, though she ultimately gets away, Michael's plan was to have her stumble into the scene of her friend's murders, where he would watch from the shadows of a nearby room, waiting for her to creep near his web so he can strike. To further highlight Michael's planning, he's even blocked off the most likely exit, the same French doors he used to spy on Annie all night. But after this first failed attempt, each subsequent attempt becomes less nuanced and more destructive. Demonstrating his near superhuman levels of deception, Michael slips into the Doyle household's living room via this window here and hides behind the sofa, despite the fact that Lori and Tommy are just 8 feet away, standing up with the lights on. Again, he pops out of his hiding place to land the killing blow, but again he misses and receives a knitting needle to the neck for it. With this first real injury, Michael's composure seems to be cracked slightly. When he finds Lori hiding in the closet, he simply breaks the doors open, though he's again stabbed, twice this time, once in the left eye, once in the gut. From here, Michael moves erratically, either staggering or flinging his body with all of his weight behind him. He seems desperate, like he wants to just end the night and move on to something else. And, of course, he does. Outside of his hunting habits, his preferred weapon seems to be the kitchen knife, which acts as both a signature as well as a link to his origin story, though many fans do state their surprise when watching the original film to find out that only one person dies via on-screen stabbing. He seems just as likely to strangle you, considering he does technically strangle all 3 girls, even if only Linda dies from it. We know Michael's birthplace, Haddonfield, Illinois. We know how old he was when all this began, 6 years old. What we don't know is how he does what he does. To begin with, as we touched on briefly earlier, Michael has an incredible adeptness for stealth, rivaling that of history's greatest ninjas. He moves through his surrounding with precision and grace. In the Smith's Grove courtyard, Michael used both the other inmates and the dark of night to blend in and obscure himself, until he was ready to descend upon the transport station wagon, a clear indication he'd planned for that moment. But that's still humanly possible. What's less possible is the way he disappears from Laurie Strode's direct line of sight during the afternoon. Many argue this scene isn't literal, that either Laurie is imagining things or that we're not meant to think Michael actually vanished. Some even argue it's an editing mistake. Not sure what the mistake would be here, the music syncs with the dramatic reveal that he's gone. But regardless of what you personally think fuels Michael's powers, a curse, the fear of the town, something eldritch, the point is that Michael is supernatural to a degree, as we learn in the final moments. But we actually don't need to even rely on the film's final twist to justify this interpretation. We see him use this same trick a second time. He somehow sneaks into the Doyle household with both Laurie and Tommy mere feet away from where he's meant to have sneaked in from. Even we, the viewer, see this part of the room the entire time. We don't see Michael open the window, it already is open, nor do we see him crouch down behind the couch. He entered the room like a gust of air, apparently, or perhaps more fittingly, a shadow. But beyond his anomalous evasiveness, he also exhibits anomalous physical strength and resilience. He moved Judith's grave from the cemetery to the Wallace household. A grave marker weighs on average anywhere from 100 to 1,000 pounds. Given that the caretaker suspects some teens did it, stating that they have a history of doing it, it can't be too heavy. It at least needs to be within the limit of a couple teenage boys. We can chalk this up to Michael being at the prime of his life in peak physical condition. We can't do the same when he kills Bob, however. Lifting another man off the ground isn't too difficult in isolation, but doing it one-handed with his arm fully extended, with Bob 8 to 10 inches from the ground, all without showing any signs of struggle, all while Bob is struggling for his life? Impossible. Impossible. Think of a barbell front raise. Think of the amount of effort you need to put into lifting 180 pounds that way. Now imagine the barbell is fighting you. Michael's doing that one-handed, meaning not only does his left arm need to handle all that weight, but his back, core, and legs need to be engaging like crazy to compensate, and Michael isn't struggling one bit. And finally, there's his resilience. Throughout the film, Michael takes quite a bit of damage. First, the knitting needle to the neck. We don't know for sure how deep and exactly where it went, so we can't say it should have been fatal, even if Lori assumed it was. She's not a doctor. Then, she runs a coat hanger through his left eye, which we later see is now presumably non-functioning. So aside from the emotional distress, if he's even capable of feeling that, this must have been excruciating without any proper treatment. But it's surely overshadowed by the knife that is rammed into his gut a moment later. But despite the open wound to his neck, eye, and gut, he still manages to manhandle Lori, only breaking free from the girl's neck when a bullet rips through his shoulder. 5 bullets later, and Michael would be down for the 3rd time that night, though it wouldn't be but for another minute, as he'd shrugged those off too. It's impossible to say if he can truly die, and judging by the look on Loomis's face, this was indeed a real possibility going into this night. Unlike your typical serial killer, Michael is a man of sheer fucking will. He waited for 15 years to enact his plan, and had the fortitude of character to see every action through to its very end. That alone makes him a far bigger threat than your average killer, who typically still needs to hold down work and relationships. The Shape has no such proclivities. But worse than that, Michael also has the strength and stealth to back it up, possessing some way to blink out of your line of sight or slip into the same room as you while going undetected. Michael may be the living embodiment of the autumn wind. In the world of fiction, such vanishing tricks are reserved for magicians and Batman. He's able to lift men off the ground, single-handed and prone. He can survive an array of attacks that would kill any other person. And his motives are entirely his own, with even the most educated guesses born from the same shaky foundations limited by human understanding. But he's also an opportunity killer, and seemingly has no grand desires beyond his own pleasure. It's almost certain that had it not been Lori and her friend group, some other teenage girl would have been his victim. But it's unclear if Michael intended to stop with Lori or continue on. Hell, it's not even known if he was done with Judith back in 1963, or if he walked outside to go door to door like a trick-or-treater. While his body count was low, and his goal particularly narrow, the uncertainty surrounding his motives ultimately stops us from really ruling out anything when it comes to danger. Sure, you may be safe just going off the odds, but on the off chance that you're one of the unlucky few he's taking an interest in, you've got a very good chance of becoming a Halloween decoration before the night's over. Which is why Michael Myers, 1978, gets a 3 out of 5 danger rating. While this particular Shape's file ends with his escape from Loomis at the Doyle household, there are other Shapes in other realities recorded in the Slasher Collective, each with their own unique deviations in design, history, MO, or anomalies. And beyond Haddonfield, there's an entire universe of slashers collected in these pages we'll be covering. But until then, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, please consider leaving a like. It may not seem like it does much, but it actually does a lot. If you enjoy narrative analyses like these, I'd recommend subscribing. We have plenty of projects in the works. And before we go, I want to give personal thanks to our Camp Crystal Lake counselor, Jeremy Dunham. Your support helps this channel tremendously. If you'd like to become a member of the Haddonfield Registry, head on over to Patreon, link in the description, where at our $5 tier, you gain access to our private Discord server where we keep up to date with slasher news, access to our uncensored cuts of Under the Lake, access to scripted videos 2 days early, and last but not least, your name read aloud at the end of every scripted video. For the Haddonfield Registry, I'm Mr. October. Good night.